As I started my first year of high school, I really wanted a TV for my room. But there were a lot of problems. My parents didn't think it was a good idea because they said we didn't have much money, and they were worried I'd spend too much time watching it. They told me I should buy it with my own money, but there was a big problem. I was only 14 and didn't have any money. Looking for a job was tough because most places wanted someone who was at least 16 years old. But then, I had an idea. Craigslist. Every night I searched the site for a free TV without anyone knowing. I looked for weeks, but didn't find anything good. Until one amazing day, I found the perfect TV I'd been hoping for. I felt really excited when I sent a message to the owner. It felt like forever before they replied, but when they did, they said I could get it that night. I was super happy. Without telling my parents, I set up a wagon on my bike. I thought if I already had it at home, maybe they'd let me keep it. My older sister did something similar once, but with a hamster. As the evening got dark, I rode my bike through our busy neighborhood to the place. The house seemed normal, like all the others. I parked my bike, knocked on the door, but it was slightly open. Someone inside asked if I came for the TV. I said yes, and they told me to go to the basement where their son was waiting. My heart was beating fast as I went into the basement. It was really dark and creepy down there. I tried hard to see, but there was no light at all. Stairs made noise as I went down, and when I was almost at the bottom, I heard something. It sounded like someone running towards me really quickly from the dark. I got really scared when I suddenly saw a man running towards me. I felt really scared and started running up the stairs as fast as I could. I could hear his loud steps right behind me. When I got out of the house, I rode my bike as fast as I could without looking back because I was so scared. I got back home and told my parents everything that happened. They didn't get mad, which surprised me. They reported the suspicious advertisement and told me not to worry. But they made it clear that next time I want to get something from Craigslist, I should ask them for help. For the next few days, I kept thinking about what happened. It made me really cautious. Even though my parents said they'd come with me, I wanted to give it another shot. I found another TV for sale, a bit further away, but it seemed better. I let my parents know, and they said they'd come with me this time too. When we got to the house, it looked like any other regular house in the neighborhood. The person who owned it welcomed us warmly, and they took us to a bright living room with a TV. My parents checked everything out while talking to the owner. Everything seemed good, and I was already picturing the TV in my own room. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The person who lived there said sorry and went to see who it was, leaving just us there. My mom and dad kept chatting, but I started feeling weird. Time went by, and the person didn't come back. I got more and more worried. I looked around nervously and saw something strange, a mysterious thing covered by a sheet in one part of the room. I was very curious. While my parents were chatting away, I slowly moved closer to the hidden thing. My hands were shaking as I pulled the cover off, expecting to see a TV. But instead, I found a bunch of strange gadgets and tools, some seeming a lot like spying devices. I got really scared when I noticed something wasn't right. Just as I was going to tell my parents, the person who owns the place suddenly came back into the room. They looked surprised to see me near some things they'd covered up. They weren't friendly anymore, and it got really quiet and tense. I tried to explain, but my parents could tell something was up. Without hesitating, my dad quickly took out his phone like he got an important call. He signaled to my mom, and they smoothly got me to leave, saying sorry for leaving suddenly. When we got out, my parents quickly led me to the car. They looked worried but tried to hide it with fake smiles. While we were driving away, my dad called the police to tell them about what happened. My mom tried to comfort me, sounding scared herself but trying to stay calm. I realized how close we were to a really scary situation. That thought made me feel scared. But even though I was scared, I felt really relieved because my parents acted fast and kept us safe. That night, we told the police what happened and went back home. My parents hugged me really tightly, looking really worried. We all sat quietly, feeling both relieved and still a bit scared. After that, I promised myself to always include my parents in any plans involving Craigslist. Even though I went through lots of ups and downs, I finally got my TV. But this time, instead of feeling really happy about having it, I couldn't forget the scary thing that happened. It made me realize things could have been much scarier. Going to a new city was really exciting, but also made me nervous. It was hard to find someone to live with in my new home. I looked on Craigslist and found a guy named Eric who seemed like a good match. I talked with Eric online and on the phone for a bit, and he seemed like a cool guy. He was around his mid-20s, and he reminded me of a friend from school. When we finally met in person, we got along really well. We talked about sports and movies and shared funny stories about his previous roommates. One day, Eric suddenly became serious. "Wait, before we keep going, I need to tell you something," he said, seeming a bit worried.
I sleepwalk sometimes, and it can be pretty serious.
I tried to stay calm and said, "It's okay. I'm sure we can deal with it together." At first, everything was good. Eric was a nice roommate, and we got along. But sometimes, strange things happened in our place. Food disappeared from the fridge, and things were moved around. I thought Eric might be sleepwalking, so I didn't think too much about it. One night, I heard weird sounds coming from Eric's room. At first, it sounded like quiet talking, but then it became a scary growling noise. I got curious and looked inside. I saw Eric standing there with his eyes closed, which was kind of strange and made me feel uncomfortable. So I went back to bed without saying anything about it. Weird things kept happening. I'd hear footsteps and doors opening and closing in the hallway, plus that creepy growling sound. I knew it was Eric sleepwalking, but it made it hard for me to sleep until I heard him go back to bed. One night got really scary. I heard Eric slam his door, then slowly walk towards my room. He quietly opened my door and stood there in the dark, making creepy sounds. I got really scared and couldn't move, just watching him in the faint light. All of a sudden, he jumped at me, pushed me down, and his eyes looked really scary. He told me to stay where I was. I tried to wiggle out, but he held me tight. I got really scared until suddenly he let go and went back to his room like nothing happened. I locked my door and stayed up all night, really freaked out. The next morning, I went to work early so I wouldn't run into any uncomfortable situations. When I got back home, his car was gone, and a lot of his stuff was missing. I tried to contact him, but he didn't answer. He disappeared, and now I'm confused about what really happened that night. I stopped using Craigslist because of a scary experience. It felt like that weird night was linked to finding roommates online. I hoped it was just Eric sleepwalking, but I wasn't sure and felt unsure about it. A lot of days went by and I didn't hear from Eric. I started feeling calmer, thinking maybe he had a good reason for leaving suddenly. But one evening, while I was watching TV, the news made me stop and pay attention. In our area, there were some strange things happening. People talked about odd sounds, things getting moved around by themselves, and even seeing a mysterious person walking around late at night. It sounded a lot like what happened when I was with Eric. As they kept talking in the report, they said a family from around here had left their home because weird things were happening. Family set up cameras and saw something creepy, a person walking around the house at night with her eyes closed, making strange sounds. I felt really scared when they showed a picture from the security camera at my friend's house. It was Eric, who used to live with me. They said he looked like he wasn't answering them and seemed lost. Because of that, my friend's family had to go somewhere safe. I suddenly understood something really shocking. Eric wasn't just sleepwalking. There was something more mysterious and harder to explain about what he was doing. I had a lot of questions in my mind, and I was really scared. I was lucky he left suddenly, but now the mystery was even more confusing. I never got a message from Eric again, and it left me feeling uneasy. I couldn't stop thinking about it, wondering if he might come back. I really hoped I was just worrying for nothing, and that he had gotten the support or solutions he needed for whatever was bothering him. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. I love selling things online because it feels like a fun adventure. It's like a modern-day treasure hunt where I can turn my old stuff into someone else's new favorite things. It's like having a little online market where what I don't need anymore can become someone else's special find. I get to be in charge, like running my own mini auction. I decide the prices, chat with people about it, and make deals. It's like living the dream of being the boss of my own thing. This time, I sold my old computer screen. It wasn't anything special, not the newest or a really expensive brand, but it was a good piece of technology that worked well for me. It was an HP 27-inch screen with a clear picture and fast response time for its time. Yep, it's been through a lot. It's not as cool and slim as the brand new ones, but it does the job well. The screen is a smooth black, and the stand has been holding it up for a long time. There are some marks and scratches from late-night gaming and busy work times, but the screen still looks great. It can show lots of colors accurately. I put the price tag at $200, thinking it was a good deal considering the item's condition and the usual prices. After I posted the ad, a person named Adnan369 messaged me. Our conversation began with him showing interest but wanting a lower price. I was ready for some haggling, as that's common when selling things online. Adnan369 didn't make fair offers at all. He began with really low bids that were so ridiculous they almost seemed like a joke, except he was serious about them. Even though I tried to negotiate fairly, he was determined to keep offering prices that were not just below a reasonable range, but were actually insulting. After some time, I figured out things weren't going well. I said no politely to his offers and chose to move on. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. Adnan369 didn't handle the rejection well. At first, the talks were kind of silly, but then things got really bad. I kept getting lots of mean messages on my phone all the time, day and night. The messages went from being mad to really scary threats. I was really surprised because I've dealt with tough buyers before, but this was way worse. It got really scary. Not the loud kind of scary, but the quiet, always there kind. My phone, which is supposed to help me stay in touch with everyone, started making me feel really anxious. Every time it buzzed or made a noise, I would get really nervous. I would even jump a little when the screen lit up, expecting more scary messages. I blocked his number, but he figured out how to get around it by making new accounts and using different names. He kept bothering me a lot, sending messages that were really angry and threatening. I told Craigslist and the local police about it, but since I didn't know his real name or have solid details, they couldn't do much to help. It felt like a really bad dream. I was scared and always nervous, constantly checking behind me and getting scared by any little thing. I couldn't believe that a normal online purchase could turn into something so frightening. My cozy and safe home turned into a scary reminder of a danger online. So I decided to take down the ad and stop selling things online for a bit. Now, the computer screen is in my basement, reminding me of the not-so-good part of the online world. Even though it's been months, I still feel scared sometimes. I did a few things to stay safer online. I got a new phone number, made my online accounts more secure, and started being more careful about what I share online. Looking back, I didn't realize how risky online transactions could be. I used to think the worst thing would be dealing with a tough negotiator or someone not showing up to buy something. Suddenly, something surprising happened in the story. While I was doing my usual stuff, I got a message from someone else. Let's call them Alex and Line Buyer. They really liked the monitor and were ready to buy it at the original price without haggling. At first, I was careful because I thought they might try to lower the price later. But Alex and Line Buyer was different. They were nice and understood the monitor's worth. They said they were happy to pay the amount I asked for. We agreed on the terms, and then I set up a meeting with Alex and Line Buyer to finish the deal. They wanted to meet in a public place to make sure everything was safe and clear. It was a nice change from the problems I had with Adnan369. As the meeting day got closer, I felt both nervous and relieved. I worried it might be difficult, but Alex and Line Buyer came as planned. Everything went well. They checked the monitor, gave me the agreed money in cash, and left without any issues. After this good experience, I thought about the difference between the two buyers. It reminded me that not everyone who buys things online is trying to cause problems. Some people are real buyers who follow the rules and appreciate what they buy. The time I dealt with Adnan 369 online made me think differently about buying and selling stuff on the internet. It wasn't a good experience. But then, something surprising happened when I dealt with Alex Online Buyer. It gave me a bit of hope. Now, I'm careful when I sell things online, but I don't let one bad experience ruin the chance for good ones. The online world is a bit like the real world. You never know what might happen. It's important to be careful, keep your personal information safe, and watch out for possible dangers. My experience taught me a valuable lesson, especially for those who are getting into selling things online. It's like a warning with a positive twist, showing that even in difficult times, there can be surprising good moments.